Yo, it's Trent. Hope everyone's having a good day, good week so far. And we got meeting Christian McCaffery at Stanford Storytime. So this is back in 2015. I can't remember. I think he was a senior. I don't know. I don't know exactly his age, right? But before we knew Christian McCaffery as the NFL star, right? My grandpa was working out in Cali. And to be honest, I don't know his exact job. I just know he does something with education, right? And somewhat important. So we go out there, and I don't know for what reason, but I just know that, like, it wouldn't be a random event that me and him would go do, right? But I just happened to be hanging out with him or visiting or something, right? And he's like, hey, we're going to a Stanford game. And I was hyped just about that, right? Because, like, football, my whole life I've loved football. And at the time, I was 11 years old, right? So I hadn't started smoking, like nothing, there was no other interest I had in the world, right? The only thing I ever wanted to do is play football or watch football. So going to the Stanford game was cool, but then he dropped the big news on me, and it wasn't even meeting McCaffery, right? He's like, we're going in the skybox, and to me, that was fucking insane. My whole life, still to this day, I've never even been close to having like a incredible sports seat like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I go to a few Bears games, like I'll go to like one a year usually, and we'll have nice seats, but I'm talking about like box or like front row, right? This was a skybox seat. Usually, I don't know how much they cost at college games, right? But like NFL, those are really expensive. So I was hyped, right? And I've never been in a box, so I didn't know like the rules about it. But we get up there, and it must have been like business partners or like people he was working with or something, because there was a lot of people in the suite that I had to meet, right? But right before the game starts, they're like, yeah, you can get drinks, you can get food, there's all this stuff behind you. And I'm just looking, and there really was. It was like a buffet was set up in there, dude. And I know this sounds crazy, like you might think it does, but to me, like, the coolest thing, like I thought it was just the coolest thing ever for free, was in the sink. They had the sink filled up with ice, right? And they just had Dr. Pepper, Coke, Sprite, Diet Coke. And for me, the 11-year-old, like right now, I still love Dr. Pepper, right? Like as a little kid, I saw that and I was like, oh my God, it's like an infinity amount of Dr. Pepper. I was in love, right? I was like, this is great, right? So the game starts and they were playing UCLA, right? Now, I know this is going to take some brain power, but think back, if you like football, one of the greatest college football catches of all time, right, was Stanford versus UCLA, and I saw it live, right? I don't mean to brag, but as a sports fan, it's one of my highlights. It's up there, right? Like going to the 2018 Bears game against the Rams when they were on their, future playoff run, and then the double doink, sadly. Like going to that was my proudest moment, but seeing the guy, I can't remember the receiver's name, or I can remember it a little bit, but no way I'd pronounce it, right? The dude, it was an absolute lob from Kevin Hogan, if you guys remember that dude, right? He didn't do too well in the NFL, but at Stanford, he was good, right? He throws an absolute dime, a jump ball, like 60 yards down the field, right? This receiver jumps up, puts his arms around the defender, right? The UCLA cornerback. The receiver puts his hands behind his back, like hugs him, like giving him a hug, and caught the ball, right? And I'm pretty sure it got called back, if I remember correctly. Maybe it didn't, but either way, that is the greatest play I've ever seen. And I saw it live, dude, so like, I don't know, there's a different feeling when you see it live. I just remember going absolutely nuts, and I remember celebrating with my grandpa, like, this is crazy, right? And even though I'm not a Stanford fan or even a huge college football fan, right, because I don't think I'll ever go to college, so I'm not really too big into all the colleges, but I love football, right? So I didn't care. I was like, that is the craziest, most hype play I've ever seen. I was going nuts in that box with my grandpa, right? I was like, this is awesome, this is awesome. So we're hanging out, and I don't even remember who won. I'm sure Stanford won, but they could have lost. Like, I don't remember if there was a comeback or anything, but I remember they were winning at least at some point, right? But the game continues, game goes on, whatever, and I remember just pretty much stuffing my face the rest of the time. Like, I was watching, but I can't remember anything too big about the game. I just remember that one catch was huge, right? And if you Google like Stanford hug catch or Stanford behind the back catch or just Stanford versus UCLA, that clip's gonna pop up, right? And I was at that game, so that's cool. But the best part hasn't even come yet, right? the game finishes up, and my grandpa asked me, he's like, hey, I don't know if we're going to be able to for sure, but do you want me to see what I can do? Like, maybe we can talk to somebody and get on the sideline, right? And as a little kid, you gotta, like, even now, I'd go fucking nuts for that, right? But as a little kid, I was just like, no way. If we can get on the field, like, the sideline, I know it's not the field, but to me, it was. Like, as a little kid, it was like, if I can go up there, being, like, real short, looking out, this is going to be crazy, right? So I'm like, yes, please, right? And the first person he asked said no, right? So my heart kind of dropped. I was like, whatever, right? But I wasn't expecting it or anything. I wasn't like, we have to meet somebody. I didn't even think about that, right? But we go down to the field, and the only players I knew on Stanford were Kevin Hogan and Christian McCaffery, right? Because those two, I had watched them. I watched them that game, and they did good. And then I watched, like, probably, I'm trying to think, 2 or 3 Stanford games before this event, because I knew my grandpa was in California. I knew he was not a fan exactly, but he was close to Stanford, like the school, like where he was at. So the fact he was like, what am I trying to say? The fact that he would see him on TV and stuff made him a little bit of a fan, right? So because he would tell me about the games, I'd start watching them on my phone or watch them on TV or whatever it was. I don't think at 11 I was watching them on my phone, but I'm sure I was looking it up on YouTube or something, right? So I knew about Christian McCaffrey already. So we finally get the okay from somebody, and we're walking down, and you got to think about it. We started in the skybox, so we walked down the bleachers, and then we walked down to like the bleachers where they met up with stairs, and then we walked down there, and there was all these people on the sidelines, right? Which I'm not sure if it was just like fans that paid extra or if it was like family members, but my guess would be family members, because like they weren't allowed on the field, but they were behind this rope right next to the field, and then the players were coming over and hugging people after the games, right? So I'm guessing it had to be their family, right? Taking pictures, shaking hands and stuff. I'm sure not everybody was, but at least a couple people, right? So we go down there, and like I said, I wasn't expecting to meet anybody at all. So I'm just standing behind like maybe, I don't know, like 15 people. Like, I'm just standing there, and my grandpa's talking to a few people. Like I said, I was a kid, so I wasn't paying attention to everything. I don't know who he was talking to, but he was talking to somebody. So I was like, okay, let me not explore, but let me just find my own lane here, right? So I walk, I'm weaving through people, and I was just like, let me just get to the front of this line. Even though it wasn't a line, it was just all these people lined up. I was like, I just want to see the field. I just want to see the end zone. That's going to look real cool. Like, why not, right? I keep saying right. I got to shut up. So I go to the edge of where the rope is, and I'm looking out at the end zone. I'm like, this is the wildest thing ever. This is awesome. I was taking a selfie. I had another dude take a picture of me, so it wasn't just a selfie, you know? And I was nervous for that, but what are you going to do? You have to get a picture if you're on a football field, right? So I get the picture, and I turn around, and I'm looking for my grandpa, and I couldn't see him, right? And I had this tiny bit of panic in me, but I was still, like, starstruck to be on the field, right? So I was like, okay, let me find my grandpa here. I'm looking around. He's a pretty tall guy, so that's usually how I look for him. And I see the top of his head or the back of his head, whatever I recognized, right? I recognized him. So I'm like, let me walk over there. And I walk over, and I'm like, hey, Grandpa. But he was talking to somebody, and I couldn't tell who, because, like I said, he's a taller guy, and I was 11, so I couldn't see what was going on. He turns around the corner, and there's not a shit ton, but, like, there's, like, 4 or 5 players just standing right there, and he was talking to him, right? So he waves me over, and I walk over there all fast, because I'm like, who are these players? And I couldn't even get a word out, dude. I was so nervous. I was like, I really was starstruck, even though I didn't know these guys, and I didn't even know their names. I just loved football. Like, seeing them in person, seeing these dudes when you're like at the time I was probably 5'5" or 5'6" when I'm 11. No way, I was way shorter than that. 11. Oh god, I was probably like 5 foot, right? Or somewhere around there. I was really short. So seeing these guys that are like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", just giants, it was absolutely crazy. It was looking up at like WWE superstars. That's how it felt, right? It was like, geez, are you Mark Henry? Like, there's some big boys, right? The big show up here. But those offensive linemen are huge, right? But then I saw it. I saw number 23. I think that was his number. Maybe it was 22. But either way, I knew instantly that's McCaffery, right? My eyes, I remember, like, just lighting up even more. Like, I was already excited, but seeing McCaffery, I'm like, this is awesome. And I tapped my grandpa, and I'm like, we got to get a high five. We got to get a high five, right? So I stick my hand. I thought I stuck my left hand out, but now I don't really know. I stuck my hand out, right? And he's high-fiving people, and he comes up to the person like 3 people away to me to the left, right? And he high-fived me, which was awesome. I thought that's all I was going to get. I thought that was the end of it. I was like, I got a high five from him. This is awesome, right? And he's saying hi to the people next to me, and I just stuck my hand out just like, why not, right? Like at a concert, right? When I was seeing Juice, people put their hands up or they try to touch the artist, I wasn't exactly trying to touch McCaffery, but I was just like, hey, let me just stick my hand out, even though I just got a high five, right? And he walks up to me and he's like, hey, shakes his hand, moves right on, right? So I'm sure it was like, not that, at the time, the college players didn't have contracts, so it's not like he had to say hi to everybody, but he basically said hi to everybody in line there. Really cool of him, and it made my day for forever. I'm telling this story now, and you see how excited I'm getting like that. It hyped me up, dude. I remember just like, I don't know. When you watch an entire football game, and, I'm not going to say he was my favorite, because I was just watching to watch, but McCaffery was one of the best out there, right? He was also the shortest, the skinniest, but he was the fastest, right? He also did punt return. He was returning punts really good, going back and forth. He was number 8. He was number 8, I think, or that was Kevin Hogan. Maybe he was number 7. He was either, because I think 20 and 23 or whatever. I think that was just the NFL. I think in college, McCaffery was number 8, if I remember correctly. But anyways, so forget what I said about the number thing, but I just can't remember his number. But that was crazy, dude. I remember just being like so hyped up. And then think about it. 2 years later, or not a year later, if he was a senior, I don't remember, right? He gets drafted. They talk about him a little bit, but not much. And then boom, right away, rookie year for the Panthers, right? He has a good season. Then he has another one. By his 3rd year, they're calling McCaffery one of the best NFL running backs. He has a good start to the year. They send him to the stacked 49ers, and now he's even better. He's like one of the top 2 or top 3 running backs. That's awesome. And I met him. Pretty cool, dude. Pretty cool. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We got I got the standard edition of college football, so that comes out in 8 hours, dude. I'm so fucking pumped for that. I can't wait. But anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. If you comment, I answer all the positive comments. You're going through something, you need someone to talk to, you're not alone. I got my Instagram, same name as my YouTube. It's linked in the the about me info, the channel info, or whatever. You just go in there and it'll link up, or just search up my name, same name as my YouTube. DM me, I'll get back to you within a day. But thanks for watching. Be safe and peace out.